Hi, this is Dr. Cruz from Design Your Destiny, and I am here today with R.C. Marshall. R.C. Marshall is the CEO of a nonprofit called R.I.S.E, and she is going to tell us a little bit about what R.I.S.E is and what it does. And thank you for being here with me today.
I am so honored to be here today with you, Dr. Cruz. Again, my name is R.C. Marshall. I am the founder and executive director of the women's organization R.I.S.E. It is a domestic violence and sexual abuse organization, and we focus on healing women from the inside out, helping women go from domestic violence situations to safe situations, also just really reclaiming who it is they are and ultimately pushing them into their destiny so they can really become who it is that they have been designed to be on this earth.
So for the viewers, Design Your Destiny is something that I've come up with. It was more of a spiritual calling for me. And the way it came to me, and I want to explain this so that we can bring it into what you're doing, Ms. Marshall, and that what I realized is I had spent 37 years of my life not realizing that I had personal power to design my own destiny. And it's ironic because we're talking about domestic violence right now, but that's exactly how my awakening came upon me. I was in a domestic abusive relationship, and I was having an episode, like we were having a domestic an abusive moment. We were having an abusive moment where he had me pinned down physically, and he wasn't violent to me in that moment physically, but he was mentally manipulating me. And because he had my arms held down and he was psychologically taunting me about my daughter, which was the mistake that he made in that moment. Because he was taunting me in that moment about my daughter, that's what woke me up. Anytime he and I would fight, it was on and popping, because at that time, I am a New Yorker, but I was down with the violence. Like, you coming for me, I'm coming for you, no problem. But when he had me pinned down and all I could do was look in his eyes as he was taunting me verbally about my daughter, and her seeing it and how it would affect her, that is what woke me up. And in that moment, I realized everything needed to change. And so when Design Your Destiny came upon me, January this year, really, I realized that is the reason why it came upon me, because I lived for so long without knowing I could design my destiny.
Yes.
I was just living as a helpless whatever, in my own life, not even a participant. I was just someone in my life, you know what I mean? As if my life was in control and dominating me, as opposed to me controlling it and dominating it. You know what I mean? So I love that you're working with women who have been abused, because that is exactly what Design Your Destiny is all about, amongst other things, but specifically as it applies to me. That's how it awakened me. So can you see how Design Your Destiny might fit in and contribute to the women that you're speaking with?
Well, definitely, because I love what Design Your Destiny means, because it's essentially the mission statement for R.I.S E, because the one thing that you must do in any situation, and anytime you are looking to succeed, you have to be willing to take control of your situation. One of the things that we always talk about is no one can help you unless you want to be helped. And you are always the one who has to take the first step and make the decision that I want the help, make the decision that I want my life better. No one's life gets better simply because somebody else wants their life to be, because someone else wants your life to be better. You have to decide that you want your life to be better. So designing your destiny is the epitome of one of the values that we teach at R.I.S.E. It is all about your understanding your self-worth, understanding that if anything is going to occur in your life, whether it's negative or whether it's positive, whether it happened to you or whether you happen to it all starts with you making decisions to do something to move yourself in or out of a situation. And in what you and I are trying to do is we're trying to push people to maximize who it is they are and who it is they were called to be, because oftentimes we don't really realize, when you are broken, it is hard for you to find out your value. It is hard for you to see value in yourself. And so with programs like yours and programs like mine, you begin to let a woman know, one, that it's possible. If you are willing to put in the work, because no matter what, no level of success that anyone achieves does not come from their own desire to want to move forward in a thing.
Wow. That is so true. You said a couple of things that really resonated with me. This is such a good conversation. Like I'm already like, girl, yes, I love this conversation. Because I see myself, my old self in that. When you just said, you started with people have to take control of their situation.
Yes.
And so immediately I was thinking, okay, let's peel the layers, right? If an onion is a person, we're gonna peel the layers. So take control of your situation. That's a layer up here. People who are broken, like you just said, when I was broken, I didn't even have an awareness that I needed to take control of my situation.
That's right.
So before somebody can even get here, we gotta peel some layers to reach their consciousness, because their consciousness is pretty much non-existent. They're not aware. They're existing without, many people, not all, but I know I was existing without an awareness of what was really going on. I did not have an awareness that being a participant in this domestic violence situation, you coming for me, I'm coming for you, was the wrong attitude. Because that's where I had came from. Survival, the streets of New York, growing up in foster care, being abused, someone tried to kill me. So these kinds of experiences create an individual that says, I'm gonna end up replicating what I've experienced because this is what I know. And so then you said that people have to heal. And they don't even know they need healing.
That's right. That is often one of the things that we find so often in the women that I deal with is that, one, I find that it is generational. So oftentimes it's generational. It is something that has been historically taking place in their life. So they don't know what the norm is. But I also find that there is something innately inside of every person that something does not feel quite right. Even though it has been normal for you, there's still something in you that says, this cannot be it. I cannot believe that this is my life. There's something that says, this is crazy that I'm going through this. And sometimes we ignore the signs. Mm-hmm. Sometimes because that's all we've seen. That's all we know. I watch my mom do it. I watch my dad do it. So I think that it's normal, but something inside still tugs at you to say, I just can't believe that this is my life. I just can't believe that this is right. And then there comes the time that the light comes on. I don't think that, I believe that God came and saved me. So I'm very deep into my faith. And I believe that we all have the opportunity of an awakening, and we must choose to be awoken. We must choose to be awakened when the opportunity comes. So you didn't let it pass you by. That opportunity when he spoke something into you and he said something about your daughter, at that moment, you were given an opportunity to wake up, to say there's got to be more to this. Even if it was a protective instinct of a mother, there was something inside of you that said no. No matter what your background was, no matter how you lived, there was something instinctively inside of you that says no, this will not be. And I think we all have to acknowledge those moments to say, this is the day that I can't anymore. I just know that I want more.
Yeah. And I'm making a list as we speak of the things that we need to give other people, women and men, because we can't just make the men the villains, right?
That's true.
Some of the women, I didn't initiate the domestic abuse in that relationship. It was just unhealthy. We didn't communicate right. We yelled, we screamed. I was drinking way too much, so that's never, that's always a precursor to domestic violence, too, when domestic violence shows up, if there's alcohol. So he wasn't just the villain. I had made a horrible choice in picking to date him. I was not aware enough to know the qualities. No one had told me there are specific qualities you need to look for in a man before you date him.
That's true.
That basic concept missed me completely. You know, neurologically, we are developed. The communication connections in our brain is developed from everything that we've ever been exposed to.
Yes, absolutely.
So the women who are in these, the men also who are in these violent relationships, they need new neural connections, which starts with, and I made a list.
That's right. We're here to know and make people aware.
We have to teach them. We have to educate them. We have to inform them. We have to live by example. We have to share. We have to give them more information. We have to provide emotional support. And that's what I got in like the first 3 minutes or 5 minutes of talking to you. But for people to just assume that people can design their own destiny and live this healthy, great life without having the support of other people to teach them how to do things differently, is a misnomer. It's just not going to happen.
It's not. You know, the one thing about broken people is we mistake familiarity with connection. Yeah. So someone else's brokenness feels familiar to us. So we get into relationships because it feels good. You almost can commiserate about some things, and you think that they're great personality traits, when really they're indicators of why you shouldn't be together. Yes. So we begin to hurt people, attract each other because it feels familiar. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's right, but it feels familiar. Yeah. You know, and you wonder how people get into cycles of, why do I keep finding the same man? Why do they keep seeking me out? Well, because that person, that personality, that level of brokenness feels familiar to you. Right. And you can't identify the familiarness until you're sitting there saying, how do I keep picking these people? Yeah. Because it feels familiar. And we always mistake, you know, we go on dates and we meet up with people and we say, oh my God, I just talked to him for hours. And oh, it was so good. And I just have an instant connection with him. And all the while, the reason why you're connected is because everything that you know about him and everything that he knows about you comes from a broken place. Yeah, it's on the same level. Yes, everybody's broke. So it feels familiar, even though you're not talking about your brokenness. And oftentimes women have a tendency to talk about their brokenness because they want somebody to come in and heal them and fix them and all of these things that, you know, we look for in someone else, when it's ultimately our responsibility to position ourselves to become whole. It's not the person that you're with's responsibility to get you whole. Now, you are, just like with schooling, you know, you have to go and find resources. You have to be willing to open yourself up to things that you had not seen before.
Yeah.
because obviously what you are doing is not working. And that's what I had to realize. Or what you are doing is not working because, you know, like we talked about your story. You know, I'm a survivor of 2-time rape by 2 different people in 2 different spans in 2 different cities. And my boyfriend at a young age tried to kill me. He literally had his hands wrapped around my neck trying to kill me. So I suffered for years from PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't let any man near my throat. I would just be like, hold up, no, not the throat, you know, and they weren't even trying to do anything. But I didn't understand how much that broke me. You know, it took years for me going through so many transitional stages in my life, from just crying out for help to entering into a strip club to, you know, so many symptoms of me spiraling out of control, and nobody could come and shake me and be like, she's broken because of this.
Yep.
And ultimately for me, my healing came through a lot of my spirituality, my relationship with God.
Me too. Yes, girl. I spent years seeking God, and to no avail, right? So my approach, I think in my mind, I think I was expecting something to show up in my life. And really what ended up happening is the values in the Bible became more important to me than what I was living. And so really by spending time in the Bible and listening to the word, which is what the Bible tells us to do, right? And I'm no Bible connoisseur. I don't like quote verses and stuff because I mess them up. But I know the gist of the Bible, and the Bible says that we do something by hearing the word of God. Like we live by hearing, or we heal by hearing the word or something. And that's what happened in my life. The word in the Bible told me who I was. Because I didn't have parents. I grew up in foster care. I didn't have parents. And even when I got out of foster care, I didn't have a relationship with my parents. And then my mother passed away and stuff like that. And so even my foster mom, who I love and adore, I lived with her for a couple years, one of them. She didn't instill in me what I needed. She was great as far as nurturing and loving and showing me what a home should look like, and showing me what a mother does. You know, she cooks and this and that. But she didn't help to build me up as a human being. And she probably didn't know she needed to. You know what I mean? Most people don't. But we do. And I want to mention, so that people understand, the reason why we sometimes we get, you know, not just PTSD, but you're speaking of PTSD, but the reason why we connect an emotional reaction to a memory, like a violent memory, and it affects us later in the future, whether we're going to call that PTSD or not. Because as a therapist, I have to be careful not to talk about diagnosis and stuff like that. But it's because the amygdala, which is a part of in the midbrain, the amygdala that's in control of the fight and flight response, emotional response, and the hippocampus, well, this is the amygdala, this is the hippocampus, they're right next to each other. And so when we experience an emotionally fearful event, the hippocampus is in control of memory. So you got a severe or an emotionally traumatizing experience, and the memory locks in with the amygdala. You know what I mean? So they work together because they're so close. And so that's why. And then if we ruminate, which most or many people do, they keep talking about their story, and they live in their story and their story and their story. And that's why you'll hear people like Tony Robbins, or, you know, other personal growth and development people, and just regular people, you know, they'll say, you got to break the pattern. You have to create a new story, because you're in your story and you're ruminating, and it's strengthening the neural connection in the brain.
See, that's why I love my friends. See, that's what happens when you have friends that are doctors. They can break it down to you medically.
Yeah, and once you can identify something, you it removes like the, I get it now. Now I can do something about it because I can put my finger on why this is happening to me. You know what I mean? When I was in the military, I got diagnosed with anxiety, and I didn't really know what anxiety was. I wasn't a therapist at that time. And so I couldn't identify it in my own body. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was going to die. And I went to medical once and to the doctor, and she said, "Do you realize you've been to the doctor 50 times this year?" 50. And I said, "No." And she said, she referred me to mental health. She said something else is going on, because it would be migraines. It would be my chest was hurting. It would be I have ringing in my ear. It would be I had stress fractures in my shins. Like there were so many what we call psychosomatic results coming from my thoughts, which was creating anxiety. And because I didn't express it, it resided in my body and wreaked havoc.
Yes. And that often, now we talk about that a little bit too, in understanding how when you repress feelings, how they, no matter what, you think that you're repressing them, but somehow, some way they will find their way out, whether it's manifesting in illnesses through your body, actions that you have. You may not be saying it, but your body is definitely dealing with it.
Yeah. What you repress has to be expressed.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. I'm going to use that. I love that.
And that's why so many people end up with anxiety, because they're not talking.
That's right.
Especially our men, they're brought up to don't be chatty Cathy, don't talk about your stuff. Don't be woman. Don't be like a girl. Don't be they come up with, they're raised with some man or some woman telling them these things. And so I know these men, they tell me, Capri, my dad says I talk too much. I need to be quiet. I'm not supposed to wear pink. I'm not supposed to, whatever, and I'm like, man, you got the wrong instruction. And,
right.
And then they, people live a life and they get into these domestic abuse situations and they get stuck because they don't have anybody to talk to.
And that's true. Again, it all, I always say this: when you learn, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, so many of us are not afforded the opportunity. So many people oftentimes are not afforded or not willing to extend themselves to learn something different. Because oftentimes people fear is a paralyzer. It will paralyze you. Some people would rather stay in a bad relationship because of the unknown. I don't know what's out there, so I'll stay with what is it? What is the saying that they say? The devil that you know versus the one you don't.
Yep.
Stuff is crazy. So you would rather stay in a bad situation than have the faith to believe that you can heal, become a better person, and have a better life. So, oftentimes, you see it, and I see it quite frequently. That's why I just love the Designing Your Destiny. I love what you're doing. I love what that means. So many people need it. We need it. I mean, we need it in the churches. We need it in schools. We need it at work, because I think oftentimes from even young children, they begin to be roped into who someone else believes that they're supposed to be, what somebody else thinks that they're supposed to do, and they lock themselves into an unhappy place trying to meet the goals and expectations of someone else because they have not learned how to search out goals for themselves, and they don't have people around them that promote their own self-identity and self-awareness.
That's so true. Oh my gosh, it's so true, because usually children replicate what is brought up in the home. And I love my daughter so much because she is constantly reminding me, Mommy, I do what you do. But it just so happens that most of the time it's in a good way now, right? But
Yeah.
crossing 37, it wasn't, right? And so she's actually the reason I went and got help. I went to a therapist because I came home and one day she just told me, she's like, Mommy, she was a teenager, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. And she said, Mommy, you need to go get some help because you're always screaming at me and I haven't done anything wrong. And I think, man, what a phenomenal girl she is. She had the courage to stand up to me. She had the insight to know that she hadn't done anything wrong and that whatever I was exhibiting had nothing to do with her. And she helped to wake me up too. And it goes back to people. We have to put up a mirror to people in a loving way and say, what you're doing is not healthy. You know, what
Yes.
you're doing is not, because
Oh
people don't know. This is just what they've been brought up with. They don't know there's an alternative.
Right. I have had relationships where I have had to say, you do understand that what you have been taught
Yeah.
is dysfunctional. It is
Yeah.
not normal. It's not normal in families. It's not what other people do. And I know you think that this is normal, but it's not. It's normal for you, but it is not normal. This is not normal behavior.
Yeah.
And
I love
funny,
how you say that, what you've been taught, because that doesn't vilify the person. We don't want to hurt the spirit of the person.
right.
Yeah.
That's right, because it's not their fault. It's not your fault who your parents are. It's not their fault that your parents went through whatever situation or your lack of parenting or whoever it is, however you ended up in that situation. It's some of the things that I always talk to domestic violence survivors is you cannot be fearful about something that happened to you. No more than you can be fearful about you fall and you scratch your knee. You know, it was an accident. It happened, but it happened to you. So you're not fearful about that. So don't be fearful when tragedy happens to you, because the best way to get over it is to acknowledge it and deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Acknowledge it and deal with it. And people are scared to do that because, again, like you said, a lot of people don't want to come out of their comfort zone, even if it's unhealthy, because we're creatures of habit.
Yes.
And we want to find the path of least resistance because change takes work.
Oh my goodness, the amount of work that it takes and the dedication that you must have to achieve anything in life, anything that is worthwhile, anything that is worth having, it takes work. Yeah. But I also believe that it takes work to stay in that place.
Yeah.
When I was in that place of misery, it took work. It takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work to want to get yourself up out of the bed. It takes work to want to not tell somebody what is going on when you feel it bubbling up inside and you don't know what to do with it. And you're sitting there shoving pie and cake in your mouth if that is your Achilles heel. Because for some people, it's not food. For others, it's drugs, it's sex, it's violence. There are so many, again, symptoms of it. And when you don't say anything, again, it does not mean that it's not coming out. We wonder why we can't have good relationships or bad relationships. I mean, we wonder why we have all of these bad relationships, and it's simply because you're not dealing with it, or you've dealt with it from the perspective of your brokenness. So you can't, how come I can't get a man, or how come I can't get a woman, and you can't keep any friends, or you are always getting into it with all your family members and you're wanting to blame everyone else, when what has happened is because of the trauma that you have exhibited, that has happened to you, you are exhibiting all of these different symptoms: anger, bitterness, distrust. All of those things come with an action. They come with some type of reaction. So, again, I love the whole designing your destiny, because we really need to try to figure out the best roadmap. And there's no one roadmap for anyone. Right. We all have different maps. It all takes us different time frames to get from a place of brokenness to a place of wholeness. It all takes us time to get where it is that God is calling us to go. Everyone's destiny looks different. The road to get there is different. Some is easier, some is harder, but they're all doable. Yeah. They're all doable. No matter what the road, it's all doable. It all can be done.
And I agree with you so much. And what I find is if people can have a trusting relationship with at least one person that they feel they are being supported by,
Yes.
that makes all the difference in the world. Because even me, I feel like that's the hardest thing for me to find. And thank God I know you because you're so supportive. I love you so much.
Listen to
But
her. I love how you try to turn that around. I love you.
but it's so true. Like, to God's honest truth. I can count probably on two fingers, you know what I mean, of the people that I feel like I can turn to and be vulnerable with.
Yep.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I'm in the midst of getting ready to leave Okinawa, and I'm moving from Georgia to California. And my car just died last week, so now I have to buy a car before I move to California. And I'm gonna be home for 1 week, so I gotta get, I gotta pack. The house is already packed, but I gotta move everything. Now I gotta buy a car. When I get to California, I'm trying to figure out now where I'm gonna live, but I gotta coordinate all that. So it's a big deal when you're moving across country, especially when you work out of the country. So you need to have some support where you could just talk to somebody and kind of share your thoughts and figure out, am I on the right path here? What do you think? Have someone to reflect back. And for someone like me that doesn't have parents, I don't have parents, cousins, aunts, uncles. I have a brother, but I don't have siblings. You know what I mean? So
Right.
and I'm not unique. There are many people out there that even if they do have family, they're not sharing, they're not being vulnerable, because sometimes our family can be the worst, what's the word I'm looking for?
They are our worst critics now.
Yeah, our worst critics. They can make us feel the most shame and the most, So anyway, I was having this conversation with this lady who I did not expect at all. She's kind of a close family friend. And she started going off on me. Her question was, how are you doing? And I was like, girl, I'm fine. I just gotta, do X, Y, and Z, and I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, and it's a journey. And she was like, don't. She said, don't call me. First of all, I didn't call her. She told me to call her. But she said, don't call me being all negative. You're the one on social media acting like your life is lit.
Well, that just shows that she's been watching you.
Yes, she's been watching. But I was like, girl, I'm human. It doesn't matter that I'm a mental health therapist. That doesn't mean my life is gonna go without a hitch. And so just having somebody that we can feel vulnerable with is so important for not only domestic abuse victims and survivors, but anyone trying to design their destiny. Who can we go to share our ideas with, who's not going to ridicule us, insult us, demean us, be condescending, all of that. So
I think it's always important to associate and have those conversations with like-minded people that share the same goals and values that you do. Because at every level that we are in life, we find, I spoke about it earlier, that, when you are broken, you find broken people. When you are whole, you tend to gravitate to people who are looking for something different in life. As you branch out into entrepreneurship, you find yourself seeking out and being attracted to other entrepreneurs because they understand where you are. You can bounce ideas off of them. And those are the same people that you will find yourself having those conversations with about the perils of your journey. And there are perils when you are when you're designing your destiny, when you are saying, I am going to do something with my life that involves me doing more than what I'm doing now. There are people that are necessary in your life.
Yes.
I mean, we are people-driven people. We were made that way. We were made to have someone. That was the reason why, there became an Eve for Adam. We were made to socialize with one another. I
Mm-hmm.
think oftentimes we just have to make sure that we make the right connections with the right people to socialize, because everyone cannot handle where you're going or what you have designed or how you decided to design your destiny. You know, if they are not there yet and you see a person who is looking at you on social media and
Mm-hmm.
they're seeing how your life looks, but any entrepreneur knows, or any business owner knows, that no matter what it looks like, there still is something that happens behind the scenes that is called grit. It is called stick to itiveness. It,
Mm-hmm.
it is something that no matter how many times you fall, because as an entrepreneur or as someone who is working in their destiny to work it out, you have to have a level of tenacity that no matter how many times you fall, because I can't tell you, to be honest with you, I can't tell you how many times I might quit in a month.
Mm-hmm.
That I might quit in a month, behind closed doors, but I do understand that I'm going to get back up tomorrow and I'm going to go do what it is that is necessary for me to fulfill what it is that I believe I'm called to do. But it does not mean that I'm going to have that conversation about me quitting during the week with everyone. I have
Yeah.
to have that conversation with somebody who knows what it feels like to be working your butt off and understand that I am tired and this has whooped me today and I want to quit. But the difference is between you saying that you want to quit and you being around people who say, yes, honey, we know, but tomorrow you got to get back up and you got to go back to the grind. Because you understand that they understand the frustration that can often come, because the greater the call, the harder the work. The bigger the destiny, the more you have to push.
Mm-hmm.
The greater the success, the more times you're going to fail. And we always have to be willing that no matter how many times we fail, that we get back up. And we must make sure that we choose well when it comes to the people that are in our circle, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
casual relationships, whether it's family. Because even with family, family is the first one that will tear your dream apart. They're the first ones who will not support you. They'll be the last ones to the party. They
Yeah.
won't come to the party until you got the private jet and the tickets for them to go to the resort with you. They're going to be the last ones, but
Yeah.
you cannot be discouraged. Oftentimes you cannot be discouraged. You just have to make sure that you put yourself around people who see the value in you. And oftentimes my family, and I'll just take it for example, when I was growing up, I was the one who they thought was going to be found in the gutter dead. That was me. That's what they thought when I was growing up. I was always smart, but because of the things and tragedies had taken place in my life, they just saw me spiraling out of control, not understanding what was going to become of me. And so when I began to get my life together, I began to see how they began to see me differently.
Mm-hmm.
But it did not come overnight. It came from me having to be tried and proven that something about me had really changed. And sometimes we can't get upset if we've been not the best example in our family challenges us on that, or the people who are close to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to just push through. You can't let that, again, you can't let somebody else's opinion of who you are define what you're capable of doing.
Yeah. I love so much that you just said, because I want to go back to what you were saying about understanding that when we get tired and we are whipped for the day, that we might feel like we want to quit. I think it's so important for specifically domestic abuse victims to understand what it is to be self-compassionate. And for people that are entrepreneurs or people designing their destiny and people trying to do bigger and better things, and they have a vision or God's calling on their life, just because we may feel like a failure, just because we may feel like we want to quit, just because we may feel like we failed, or did I say that already? Or that we didn't do something the right way, or the thing is that the more we want to improve our lives, the deeper we have to go into our fear. The
Yes.
thing that we fear the most on the other side of that is
Absolutely.
where the gift is. And
Absolutely.
so we have to be self-compassionate and learn how to love ourselves and not be so hard on ourselves when we're not 100%. Because like you said, you know, it's a bit of a walk. You know, you got a long ways to go, and there is no end. You know, there's no, oh, I arrived.
That's right.
Continual development of who it is God is revealing us to become.
Now that is true, honey. I could get up and shout and run around the room on that one right there, because that is, I mean, it's just such a profound statement. It is
That's
just.
how I feel when you talk. I'm like, oh, that one, yes.
It is. It's just so, you know, the conversation is just is mind blowing when you begin to talk about it, and you begin to reflect on those things and what it takes. You know, even at this crossroads in my life, there's always areas of matriculation. You're always trying to go up. You're always trying to get to the next thing. And with domestic violence, somebody's next thing is just being able to say, I see myself out of the situation.
Yeah.
I see myself out of it. Just being able to see yourself out of the situation. You might not even be able to see yourself whole and set free, but just being able to see yourself out of the situation. I just see myself being out of it. That's a big deal.
And you've taken us right back to where we actually should be, because this is where we start, and we're way up here now, right? Talking about change and stuff. But let's go back a little bit. And I want to keep this a 30-minute video, and I'm sure we're probably over 30 minutes by now. But
we have to edit out.
For the people like who I used to be, I did not have any awareness that my life was off track. And I was 37 years old. I was in survival mode. So what happens is, for me, what happened was I was in a situation, I was in the military. And so I was in a contract where I kept renewing because I did not know I had personal power to change. And so my friend said, Capri, if you don't want to be in the military, because really what my heart wanted was stability. I wanted to go live in Florida and raise my daughter. But it was such a small thought in my head. It was like a quick flash. What dominated my mind was something that wasn't evident to me. It was a heaviness in my body. It was depression. It was depression. And I didn't even know I was depressed because I was drinking to avoid feeling and dealing with that which I could not identify. So because I didn't have any answers, it was fun to drink because then I was happy. You know what I mean? But when we drink and when we smoke or get high or use drugs, anytime we have a mind-altering substance, we move further away from the root issue, and so we can't address it.
Yes. I mean, I tell clients that all the time. Doesn't matter how much you drink, though, the issue is going to be there when you stop taking it. When you stop doing it, the issue is not going away. It's still going to be there. It's going to be there.
Yeah. So I was 37 years old and it was still there.
Yes, still there. You don't address it, it stays there.
Yeah. It had manifested into a man that I invited into my home to live with me, who was very much younger than me. I should not have been dating him, period. The maturity level, not even like the maturity level, but you know, his life experience was nothing. I was 37 and he wasn't even in his 30s. He didn't have the life experience of a man that I needed at 37 years old, but I didn't have the understanding of that judgment. So the problem started out with the fact that I didn't have parents. So I didn't have people and I'm saying this so that if someone's watching, they may have an understanding of how it's showing up in their life because of how it showed up in mine. So it started out with no parent, substance abuse parents, then going into foster care, then not having a relationship with my parents for the rest of my life, pretty much, losing my mother at a young age, being abused in foster care, having someone try to kill me in foster care, then moving in with a family member who sexually molested me, having someone else sexually violate me becoming homeless after that, me having to drop out of high school, me, bouncing around from home to home because everybody kept kicking me out until I went back into foster care. And then my foster mother kicked me out. And then a year later, after living with 3 other people, I joined the military. So at no point in that journey, and this journey is not unique to me, it shows up just as dysfunctional for other people, as you very well know. But this is what precedes, people not having a healthy future, because you never had a healthy beginning. How can you know what a healthy life even looks like? So Absolutely. When I say that people don't have any awareness of what they should be doing to have a healthy life, people who do understand healthy living are oblivious. They're like, what do you mean people don't understand? It's common sense. People should know.
Right.
No.
Absolutely. Now
people
that's
can live their whole life and not have a clue because they need other people to teach them, educate them, inform them, live by example, put up a mirror to them in a loving way, share information, and like, hey, healthy people actually wake up with their children and take them to church and do their hair, and they don't leave them in the back room on a video game for 17 hours a day. Like, we have to show people how to do better for them to be like, oh, okay, I get it. Because the neural connections have never been created in the brain. They've never seen that example in their life.
It is true. It is true. As I was listening to you, I listened to some of the things that you said that, again, you felt a heaviness of depression, which, it didn't feel, it did not feel normal, the heaviness. That's why I say that we always have internal indicators that says something is not right with the decisions or with what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we just ignore them.
And we need to, I don't mean to cut you off, but we need to talk to people. We need to network. We need to have sisterhood. We need to join groups. We need to, get out of isolation, because when we live in isolation, there's no answers there. It's only rumination. And the more we can connect, the more new information we become introduced to.
Yes.
And that's how awareness is created. The brain cells, through repetition, start saying, oh, okay. Just like when we're exposed to PTSD stressors, the brain is reinforcing those, and it works the opposite way with healthy things too.
And it is true. I mean, it is important. That's why, when you get in those situations, begin to, oftentimes there's so many cultures that shy away from assistance, shy away from help. It's always the elephant in the room in families. It's always, we don't talk about that. We don't do that. We don't go talk to anybody. We don't try to fix it. It'll be all right. If you just don't talk about it long enough, it'll go away. But what we have found is that is a very antiquated mindset, because it doesn't go away. The elephant in the room just continues to give from one generation to the next. And I think what we have to do is reprogram what people believe is how to fix the things that are broken within us. Oftentimes, families say, it stays in the family, but oftentimes, how is it supposed to stay in the family when everyone in the family is broken?
Yeah.
How is it supposed to get fixed in a family when nobody knows how to operate functionally, to be functionally well? So we've looked we look at antiquated systems and antiquated family values that need to be reprogrammed and shown differently, because we're just not in a and then with social media, people put so much of their life out on social media, so it's almost like people have an expectation that when they really want to get healed, they expect something that is authentic and transparent, and they want to be able to get to the deeper things because we expose so much on social media anyway. But when it comes to like deep rooted problems, we oftentimes want to just be like, everybody knows, that the predator in the family is Uncle Joe, so just stay away from Uncle Joe, instead of telling Uncle Joe he needs to take his tail somewhere and go get some help because he's got a problem, instead of just telling everybody to stay away from Uncle Joe.
Say that, girl.
I mean, no, Uncle Joe needs an intervention. Take your tail somewhere or else we're going to report you to the police. You need to go get some help.
Yeah.
You've been in families where, it's just so many different dynamics and so many examples that I can give. But the main thing we need to do is address the problems head on, because not doing anything, it equates to nothing happening. And if nothing happens, then your life stays the same, and then you're in the same exact pattern. And your life, you cannot design your destiny because nothing is changing. So change often starts with the person in front of you. It starts with the man in the mirror. Michael Jackson said it best. Want to make a change.
Yes, and you got me hyped, girl. You are reading my mind. I just had this conversation with somebody. It is the guilt and the pressure family puts on its members to keep the secrets of the family.
Yes.
And the people that get pressured to keep the secrets of the family are the children.
Yes. Yes.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting because that is the family culture. Because the matriarch or the patriarch of the family is too old or too weak to address the problems in their family and the problem makers in their family. So everybody just tries to be hush-hush about it and act like nothing's going on. And meanwhile, somebody's getting beaten, or somebody's getting abused, or somebody's getting molested, or somebody's doing drugs and they shouldn't, you know what I mean? It's just like, don't keep the family secrets anymore. Put their ass on blast.
That's exactly right. That's how you fix it. That's how you break generational curses. That's how you change your legacy. That's how your children have a better life and your children's children have better lives.
Yeah.
When somebody decides to stand up, the reason why we are able to vote, the reason why I'm able to have a conversation today is because somebody had to make a change and stand up and do something that was not of the norm, and say, this right here is an antiquated thought process, and we have to begin to change it. And, one of the things I begin to say is that I'm a silence breaker, because I believe that silence has to be broken. It has to be broken in how we perceive things, how we hide things, and that we have to be willing to open up about what is going on. And I'm not saying that everybody is called to be on a platform, but might be called to be the platform for your family. You might be the one who, if you never speak in a public place, but you are the one who says no more in my family.
Yeah.
This is not going to be my family.
Yeah.
That might be your call to say, because it's going to take somebody to say, we can't keep holding Uncle Joe's secret for 20 years, because it's killing our family.
Yeah.
Or Uncle Sue's, our Susie's, secret. We can't keep hiding it, because again, it's not just a male problem. It is not designated to a single sex. It can be anyone. Susie can be beating her children every day and starving them and neglecting them and not treating them well, and the family just gets on the phone and talks about it, and nobody wants to report Susie because nobody wants to be the one to put Susie into a system when she is going to end up killing her children. And if she doesn't kill them physically, then she kills them mentally. And oftentimes a mental death, it leads to a horrible life. And So it's harder to get over, man, you know, because you have so many stumbling blocks that you have to get through when somebody just breaks down the very being of who it is you are. You have to try to figure out how to climb out of a dark hole.
And there's so many years in the developing stages of growth that when that's your family culture, and then you become a young adult, now you're confused, now you're lost, and now you're replicating unhealthy behaviors and you may not even know it, or you're living in fear, so you're isolating because you don't want your family to know certain things or whatever the issue is. But the important thing that you really mentioned is that it doesn't just stop there. You know, it's not that we're just hiding Uncle Joe's secret or Susie's secret. It's that the children who now are exposed to that, when they become young adults, they're left to carry the freaking burden of this podcast, Joe and Susie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not fair.
And it is absolutely not fair. And oftentimes, because it's something that they've learned, here they are thinking this is what normalcy looks like, that this is okay, that this is how a family is supposed to handle it. And it's not until they get exposed to various things like organizations like my organization or organizations like yours or projects like Designing Your Destiny that they begin to have another thought process that there another way, that there is another option.
That's awareness that should have happened a long time ago. I want to say quickly, designing your destiny and domestic violence or being a victim of any kind of abuse, the difference is one is a mindset, you know, anything that's bringing harm to your life, that is usually a mindset of something negative, whether it's oblivion, living in isolation, shame, guilt, fear, those kinds of mindsets that end up creating a sense of being lethargic, depressed. I just want to quit. I just want to, you know, self-medicate. That's one mindset. That when you have that kind of mindset, you know you're in this realm of living. When you're in a mindset, or when you're in the path of designing your own destiny, or when you're in the path of self-correcting and you want to do something better for your life, that's a whole different mindset. One is when you design your destiny, you're on the offense. When you're a victim of something, you're on the defense.
Yes.
You're trying to protect yourself. When you want to change, you're busting through walls. You're like, I'm kicking walls down because I need to make something happen.
Yes. Now that right there, honey, is good. You have to make a decision to kick some walls down. And a lot of those walls you have built yourself through what's taking place in your life. And you just have to begin. You know, I love the analogy of the onion. You just have to begin to peel back the layers. And be okay with what you find. That's the thing. You have to be okay with what you find. And know that just because you might find something that you don't necessarily like does not mean that what you find cannot be changed.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, Miss Marshall. I want to wrap up here. But, you know, before we wrap up, actually, I'm just going to put these names out there for the sake of conversation, but I don't want to start another conversation because I know you got to go too. But, you know, we just had this incident on social media being revealed, or the incident was revealed on social media of the rapper Fabulous punching his longtime girlfriend and the mother of his children, I believe, punching her several times in her face and body. And there were reports that he punched her teeth out, her front teeth. I haven't seen any confirmation or anything of that. Whether it happened or it didn't happen, it happens in somebody's life.
Yes, absolutely.
It happens in somebody's life. I've been punched in the face by a man before, and I found myself, and I said I didn't want to start another conversation, but I have found, and I don't have a problem revealing none of this because this is what I needed. I needed someone to say, girl, you know, I've been there, it's okay. But I found myself, well, it's okay to talk about it, not okay to be in it, but I found myself crying in my 30s, you know, same guy that I awoke from at 37. So I'm in my mid 30s in my closet, bedroom closet floor crying because I had just been physically abused. And he did many things. He kicked me in my back once. He pressured me to have sex, you know, when I didn't want to. And when you're emotionally abused and you're mentally manipulated, make no mistake about it, this guy was a master manipulator. You know what I mean? He, and shame on me for not being able to catch it early on. But when you're not taught, you get involved with people, and there are many masterful manipulating women out there as well, but you get caught up in their web, and then one day you wake up wondering if you're crazy.
Yes, and they're narcissists too. What you'll find is that abusers are frequently, whether it's a man or a woman, they're a narcissist.
Yeah.
So they have, there are very specific traits that you will find in people that do those kind of things.
And I had a client just the other, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I had a client the other day tell me about how her boyfriend refused to leave her home. When you have a man in your house who refuses to leave the house, the woman has a problem. Because if you want to legally remove him, there's a process, it takes time. If you don't want to do the legal thing, a lot of people don't want to get the law involved. Now you have someone who is manipulating your mind, dominating you emotionally by physical intimidation. And where does that path end? You know what I mean? Domestic violence is going to begin to show up if it hasn't already. And it is not improbable that somebody is going to get killed.
It is not improbable. You know, of course, you know, I think we spoke briefly about the young lady that I dealt with who was a young age and life was taken all too soon. I think she was 22 and shot 3 times by her boyfriend at work. It was horrible. No, she's only 22. She had a whole life ahead of her, and he was the same age. And the sad thing about it is, at the age of 22, you don't, it seems to be oftentimes you find so much violence in that age range when the ironic thing about being that age is the person that you will ultimately be is far from the person that you find yourself at age 22.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you make these horrible decisions and mistakes at such an early age, and they have lifetime consequences because of it.
Yeah. I drill into my daughter so much. She understands it now, but we speak about it anytime that, you know, I kind of go off the deep end. But I am all up in her face about she better be careful about the man that she lays down with, or that she dates, or that she entertains, or she gets involved with, or she starts being friends with, because it doesn't start with a punch in your face.
Yes, that's it. I always talk to young children about the indicators.
Yes.
There are indicators. I said the indicators are very subtle, but they are always there.
Yeah. And if we let God lead, you know, like I said, I can't quote scripture and all that, but what I know is Jesus saved my life. He awakened me to my value.
Yes.
My parents didn't tell me my value. I didn't have any parents. And I still don't have any family. So there's no one in my family feeding life into me. So when you don't have someone feeding information, life, and wisdom into you, you have to go seek it out in people, in the Bible, and things like that. And you know, this is something I tell my daughter too. Let God bring you the right man, because the consequence, and this goes for men too with women, the consequence of getting involved with the wrong person is too high of a cost. And
I know,
if you have children with them, Lord have mercy.
And you know, I have 2 girls, and even at a young age, honey, I am like, these are some things that you do not do. You do not allow in your space when, you know, and there are key rules that I give them, even at a young age, even when it comes to friendships.
Yeah.
Because if you keep them in your friendships, you will find that you will use those same values when you are out in the dating scene.
Right.
You know, I tell my kids all the time, you know, don't think that just because somebody says they're sorry, does not necessarily mean that you have to continue to associate with them. If
Right.
what they have done to you is detrimental to you, you take that sorry, you put it in your pocket, you accept it, and then you keep moving. But that does not mean that you continue to allow them in your life, because
Yeah.
we have to be mindful of who, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Girl, I'm still working on it.
I mean, we all are, you know. I'm an advocate. We all, because we are emotional beings. We are beings, you know.
Yeah.
We have emotions, and you know, and the bad thing about people who have dealt with domestic violence and sexual abuse, and you find oftentimes why they stay because they want to believe wholeheartedly that when they say I'm sorry, that sorry really means I won't do it again.
Yeah.
Narcissistic people don't care about the I'm sorry. They
Mm.
don't necessarily mean it. They can say it 100 times over, and it does not faze them when they say it. It has no value. So
Yeah.
therefore, it doesn't matter how many times they say I'm sorry, it has no value for them. And because it has no value, there is nothing inside of them that is going to cause them to change unless something clicks inside of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I tell my daughters all the time, just because somebody says I'm sorry does not mean you accept the behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why it's so important that we must know our worth. We
Yes.
must know our worth, because the one thing that has helped me do exactly what you're saying about, you know, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I joke when I say I'm still working on it, tongue in cheek, but you know, I have a very low tolerance for people now. You dick around with me one too many times, and one is usually too many times, I'm done, because I got stuff to do. I'm
Right.
writing books. I'm trying to do these, you know.
Yes, girl. Say it.
If you're gonna be the wrong kind of person, you're the wrong kind of person, you know? So knowing our worth, when we know our worth, then we understand the value of our time. And when we understand the value of
Yes.
ourselves and we understand the value of our time, then it becomes very easy to identify the people that don't belong in our circle. Because the
And
qualities, they're so different.
yes, and purge them quickly. Because the longer you allow, the harder it is to get them away.
Yes,
Purge quickly.
purge them quickly.
Often my girlfriends, they come to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I found a new guy that I love. Will you please pray?" Well, not love
Yeah.
that I'm really interested in about it. And my prayer is always that God will reveal quickly.
And God will
That
what?
is always that God will reveal quickly.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You know, one of the prayers that changed my life, I recall immediately, and it scared me to death. For a long time, I resisted it. I resisted a lot of things God was putting in my life, you know, but what I learned is the value of that saying,
Yeah.
your arms are too short to box with God. But, but it was, Lord, let your will be done. That prayer scared the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even know what that means. I'm not praying that.
Oh my God. I'm going to tell you, that was a big one for me. You know, this is really off topic, but that was big for me when I wanted children. And I was terrified of saying that prayer because I just knew that there was a possibility that it would go contrary to what I wanted.
Yeah.
And what was there was the first time that I heard him say that I would be a mother. And I refused to say it because I was like, I don't want to hear the fact that he's going to tell me that I'm not going to be a mother. I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to pray that prayer. I want a baby. And then one day I just got the faith enough to trust, because in the Bible it says no good thing would he withhold from us. And so I had to trust that he knew that that was a good thing for me. And I remember just saying, let your will be done. And as soon as I said, let your will be done, I
Ooh.
remember him saying that I have not called you to not be a mother. You shall bear children. I remember that.
Wow. So I just got goosies. I got goosies.
And now anybody who knows me knows I have two little girls that run me nuts. They are 11 months apart. So they came back to back. So God is faithful. He's
Yeah.
faithful in healing. He's faithful in helping us search and find our destiny.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm not going to get too scriptural because I know that I love the Lord and there is a preach in me. But, you know, the Bible says that he knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb, which means that we all have a destiny that is designed, that is predestined and
Mm.
designed for us, and that we just must hold on to it and grab it and gravitate toward it. You know, there's nothing in life that says it would be easy. It just says that it can be done.
Gravitate towards it. That is so perfect right there. And I want to end on that because we could go on for hours, but gravitate toward that even when we don't have a solid awareness. When we get to the core of the onion, right? Here's the core. You know, we peel back all the layers. You were saying there is something in us. So if so, I want to close out with giving this advice to people to help them learn how to get started increasing their awareness so that they can begin to design their destiny. Because design your destiny is way out here. There's a lot of work that has to be done before people can start making those moves. And one is to become more mindful. When we bring the focus inside of us, what am I feeling? How am I feeling? How did that comment from him or from her just land on me? Did that hurt my feelings? Am I tolerating stuff I should not be tolerating? Am I in danger? Was that disrespectful? We need to go back into our intuition, and men have intuition too. And like you said, gravitate toward that which is trying to communicate with us on an energetic level, which is where God communicates to us through one of the ways. And so that's my ending advice for people. What is your ending advice for people to design their destiny?
You know what? I think my biggest thing is always strive towards understanding your self-worth, and don't let somebody's opinion of you negate who it is that you were called to be.
Yeah.
Because if you wake up with air in your lungs and the ability to start another day, there is purpose for you, there is destiny for you, there is the ability to design a destiny for you. And I just believe that with faith and hard work, that those things can be achieved. So I always go back to always believe that you are worth it. Just believe that you are worth it. I think that's the biggest thing, is that believe that you are worth it. Believe that there is a purpose and that there is a destiny, and that it is not a life of strife. It is not a life of perpetual sadness.
Yeah. But it is a life of work. It doesn't come easy.
You better believe it, honey. You better believe it.
All right, R.C. Marshall, thank you very much for blessing us with your time and your wisdom. We love you very much. And
there's one thing I wanted to say. I completely forgot.
yeah.
Anybody in the Atlanta area? In the Atlanta area? If you are in the Atlanta area on April 28th and any Saturday after that for the next 4 weeks, we are hosting a 4-week boot camp called Breaking the Silence, where we will be dealing with defining abusive relationships, defining unhealthy relationships, setting goals, dealing with self-worth. And so we've got these spectacular 4 weeks that we have planned. And if you are in the Atlanta area, please make sure you stop by. It will be hosted by my home church, which is Kingdom Builders. That is at 1151 Flat Shoals Road in the city of Conyers. Please stop by. We would love to have you. And if you want any more information about anything that I'm doing, you can always check my website out at www.risenlightened.org. That's RISENLIGHTENED.org. We're always looking for volunteers, and we're always looking to help somebody. So if you know somebody in the Atlanta area, refer them to us. And we're always open arms and trying to make sure that we reveal the darkness and replace it with light. We love you. I love you. This is R.C. Marshall.
Identify the darkness and replace it with light. Say that, girl. I love that. I love that. Rise enlightened. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Cruz with Design Your Destiny, and you all can find me at capricruz.com and on Facebook. We're here to help you, so reach out to us. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye-bye.